Hi, this is Arizona lawyer Julie LaBenz back with video 3 of the 4-part video series, We're Breaking Up, Who Gets My Kids? Now here in part 3, I am going to dive into a step-by-step tutorial of how to create a workable parenting plan. This is a key step in every divorce and custody case because getting a parenting schedule in place is the key to reducing the amount of drama and fighting and arguments, and to help your children have a more smooth transition into this new family dynamic. It may be really crystal clear to you about why the parenting plan is so important. But in the event some of you are wondering, what is a parenting plan, Julie? I'm not quite clear on why this is such a key step. Well, a parenting plan is your child's sharing schedule. So on a daily basis, and then you take that out on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, who is responsible for the care and custody of the kids, and when are you going to be exchanging the kids? What's the location? Who's responsible for transportation? All of those scheduling issues, all of those scheduling details, those are part of a parenting plan. So certainly it's really important to get onto a child's sharing schedule, because once you have that schedule, you don't have to communicate as much. You're not talking about, okay, well, when's it your time with the kids, or when's it mine, and where are we meeting, and what's our exchange point? You have that, and everybody's on the schedule, everybody knows what's going on, and then you don't have to talk. You don't have to fight about it, and you can have a much smoother transition as you go through the legal process and reach a final agreement, or go through a trial and have a final order from a judge with the terms of your divorce or your custody establishment. All right, so let's talk about some of the details of a parenting plan that are really important. Number one is figuring out if you fall into the short distance or the long distance parenting plan categories. Short distance would be, in the guidelines, there's some parenting plan guidelines that the counties put out, and they refer to around 250 miles being the limit for the difference between a long-term or a long distance or a short distance parenting plan. But I think the parents really need to think about how much time the kids will spend in the car, and what opportunities for extracurriculars or time with friends that the kids would miss out on, depending on what drive time and transportation time is involved with exercising a more equal parenting plan. So number one is to think about short distance versus long distance. If the parents live close to each other, and it's no problem, in other words, the parents live in the same school district, and maybe even a few doors down from each other. I mean, not that close usually, but within the same neighborhood or not too far away. In other words, the closer the parents live, the easier it is to have a 50-50 type time sharing arrangement. Now, there's a couple of different options for a 50-50 arrangement. Parents could do it every other week. So one week parents or the kids are with mom or dad, the next week with the other parent. Also, there's this concept of a 5-2-2 plan. So that means that 2 days of the week, let me take a quick drink of water here. 2 of the days the kids are, for example, with mom. So maybe Monday, Tuesday with mom, and then Wednesday, Thursday with dad. And then the parents alternate every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So 5 is, if they're with dad, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, mom, Monday, Tuesday, dad, Wednesday, Thursday, mom, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So there you see the 5-2-2. So one option, every other week, other option, 5-2-2. Another option, if the parents are, still within a short distance, but not close enough, or maybe the kids have a lot of different extracurricular activities and it just isn't feasible to do that much time sharing, to have that much back and forth between the parents, then another scheduling option would be every other weekend plus an optional night during the week. So for example, the kids could be with mom the majority of the time, and then with dad every Tuesday night, as well as every other Friday night, Saturday night, and then the parents would meet on Sunday, usually in the late afternoon, and exchange the kids then. Of course, the type of parenting plan that's going to work for you is highly dependent on the age of your, the ages of your children. If you have an infant, the type of sharing schedules that I just covered, may not be feasible at all because of the child's need to be close to the mother for breastfeeding purposes. So really, you're going to have to look at what's best for your kids. The scheduling decision under the law is not supposed to be about what's best for mom and dad. The courts are just focused on what's best for the children. So a lot of that is dependent on the age of the kids and what's going to work for them as far as a schedule. Is the child an infant and need to be close to mom for breastfeeding? Or are the kids teenagers and they're really involved in sports? And so the parenting schedule needs to revolve around the kids' sporting schedules as well. These are all things to take into consideration and for the parents to sit down and try to iron out those details to figure out what's going to work and what's going to help their kids through this transition. And keep in mind, this plan is going to change because obviously if you've got an infant, as the child gets older, you're going to have to change this parenting schedule and see what's going to work. And this is where it's so key for the parents to sit down and start finding a way to communicate and work together for their kids, because they're going to have to make changes to the schedule over time. So it's really great if you can try to sit down and start figuring this out. I understand that it's difficult at this point, and that's where having this information and knowing kind of a framework of what's reasonable and how to open up that dialogue can help in starting to gain these communication skills. So we talked about some short distance options and how the age of your children, or the ages of your children, is really going to be a key factor in determining what type of parenting plan is going to work for you. But let's also talk about long distance options. If you've got a pretty significant drive, or even if there's a plane flight involved for the kids to see mom or dad, then you're going to have a much different time sharing schedule. The most basic option, depending on how much distance is involved, would be the every other weekend. Because of the drive time or the plane flight, you really want to be able to have that additional optional night during the week. So there would just be the every other weekend option with the parents finding a location to meet at. If there's a drive involved, maybe they meet halfway on Friday and then they meet again on Sunday at the halfway point. If the drive's a little longer, or it's just not best for the kids to be going back and forth that much, that can be narrowed down to one weekend a month with an optional additional weekend, depending on what's going on. What is going to be really key, in other words, when the other parent that the kids don't live with the majority of the time, when they get to have more time with their kids, is during school breaks and holidays. And so within the long distance option, that's where there's really going to be the key to getting, additional parenting time, is maximizing those holidays and school breaks. So that's, the spring break, fall break, summer breaks, having maybe 3 weeks to a month with mom or dad during that school break period. Thanksgiving, Christmas. Oftentimes the parents will alternate those holidays, but maybe give the parent that sees the kids less a little bit additional time, and certainly a longer time during the summer. But of course, this again depends on the age of the children. the ages of the children, and what their activities are. So a lot of this is going to have to be a direct analysis of your family situation and what's going to work best for your children. All right, now really just for a quick summary of what we've talked about here, some of the key elements to a parenting plan are figuring out your weekly and monthly schedule and factoring in the holidays and the school breaks, and then of course considering the ages of your children and what's really best for them. Taking all of that into consideration and then working together to try to figure out a fair plan that's going to work for everybody. Make sure you include the transportation details, who's responsible for picking up the children, dropping them off. And one other thing to consider, in particular at the outset, when you're first trying to create your very first parenting plan, if there's a lot of drama and tensions are high between the parents, consider having the exchange point for pickup drop-off being what I call a third-party location. So for example, one parent could drop the kids off at daycare in the morning, the other parent picks them up at the end of the day. That way the parents don't actually see each other at the exchange. There's the third-party location where the exchange happens. And this can be a really good tool to use while you're making this transition, because emotions and feelings are understandably, they run highest at the outset. And so a key step is to get yourself on a workable parenting plan, and if you need to, have your exchange points be through third-party locations so that you don't have to see each other. And finally, my final tip is to set up your method of communication. If you've got the high drama going on and it's just not good to have face-to-face with each other, and it's not good for your kids to see that, then consider communicating only via text. There are some online programs and apps that you can get that help you with coordinating schedules and communicating with each other through, only electronic means. You can use email and really just designate your forms and potentially even times of communication so that you can try to keep things and keep the drama to a minimum. All right, I hope that you have found all of this information extremely helpful. And we've now made it through video 3 of the 4-part series. So hold on tight. You are in the home stretch looking right into video 4. So that is to come. And again, this is the 4-part video series. We're breaking up Who Gets My Kids. And I'm Arizona lawyer Julie LaBenz. And stick around for video 4.